Lynched on CTV, proudly brought to you by Christchurch's #1 dining offer, Sequoia 88 at the Redwood Hotel, a food concept unequalled. Good evening. Mental health issues continue to be an issue for the Canterbury District Health Board. Its Chief Executive David Mates is my guest, and Lynched starts right now. It is great to have your company tonight. Well, parking, mental health issues, Ebola, is there anything that there's not enough to discuss when it comes to the Canterbury public health system? Well, let's talk to the Canterbury District Health Board Chief Executive, David Mates, is my guest, and good evening to you.
Good evening.
It is great to have your company. Thanks so much for coming in at short notice. I do appreciate that. There is so much to discuss, but I want to talk first of all about the mental health issues in Christchurch. They still exist. In fact, you say there's a looming mental health crisis if we don't work fast enough to get more resources, particularly in the Christchurch region, to help our most vulnerable.
Yeah, because we're still seeing a lot of mental health issues following on from the earthquakes 3-4 years ago. And we're seeing that playing out in a number of different areas, whether it be young adults or child and adolescents. And we're particularly concerning seeing actually through the rural areas increased pressures starting to emerge from that. Most of the challenges seem to be related to stresses and anxiety that have followed on from the earthquakes, people struggling to cope with kind of life. Again, in the city where some people are doing really, really well and others are still really struggling.
We're having a decent discussion in the green room about some of those problems, and you were saying to me that it is everyone and anyone. Obviously, mental health affects, it's indiscriminate in a way. Talk to me more about those people, those concerns. I mean, beds are running pretty low, the numbers.
In our acute inpatient mental health units, we're continuing to overflow most nights for the last few months.
Is that right?
And that poses a lot of pressures and issues sitting on both staff and also the patients that are receiving care.
How many beds do you have specifically for mental health concerns or patients?
So there are 64 inpatient bed units, and at times we'll have up to over 100 individuals that we're needing to provide quite intensive care for. But also right across the primary and community sector as well is the number of people getting in contact with their GP and general practice that again still really struggling and needing to be connected with appropriate services. And
perhaps it's no surprise they're struggling a lot because of the earthquakes still, aren't they? That's a reality for many people. Yeah, look, a lot of people have thought, the earthquakes happened a long time ago and many of the issues are over, but we're probably going to be dealing with this for the next 8-10 years. And we'll continue to be surprised in a few more years thinking, where on earth did this come from, or what has caused this? And most of that will go back to the earthquakes. The earthquakes in Canterbury have been unusual, just both the number and the ongoing nature of those, and then followed with, for many people, challenges around with EQC insurance have caused what we call a number of secondary stressors, which have really caught people, and people needing to move on with life have got trapped and caught. And I think that's part of the challenge that we're dealing with at the moment. You say, and I quote, I read this in one of the journals, I think, that more money is urgently needed to avoid a looming mental health crisis. You don't mince your words. Well, what we're looking at is actually, what we're seeing here is unprecedented in New Zealand. This is the largest natural disaster that New Zealand has faced, and what we need to do is to make sure that we're staying on the front foot with the community and working with our community to really help ensure that people are staying well and living as best, kind of as good lives as possible. So it's something that we are going to require some additional resourcing to enable us to do that. And again, it is going to be sustained over a number of years. Additional resourcing in the way of money? So, kind of money is kind of really a default for, kind of more people in a number of different areas. The
health professionals that work in mental health are seeing complexities or complexities of care that they've just not seen at any other point in their careers.
So in a way, they're learning too. I mean, some of the most brilliant psychiatrists you have available around the region, they're finding out too what it's like to work with a patient who presents themselves with a mental health issue that they're not used to.
Yep, and also one of the challenges too, you've also got a number of health professionals that are also dealing with the same sort of issues in their own lives, and that that certainly makes for an interesting set of challenges.
Two groups of people I think you were saying that are concerning at the moment here in Christchurch: adolescents. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Because you often think of adolescents, youth, young people as water off a duck's back, but they take a lot in, don't they? Mm.
Young kids in particular, often reflecting what's going on at home. So if mum and dad are really struggling with issues with, kind of repairs or houses or pressures and stresses with work, the kids will often reflect what's going on through there. So the kids are often just a mirror or a window into what's going on at home. And what it is really highlighting is an underlying set of real pressures, real stresses, and people not coping.
It's also concerning you talk about the rural communities. Mm. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that?
So rural communities, a lot of farming areas, and one of the challenges, particularly in the rural communities, is people kind of living in relative isolation and don't necessarily have the same level and number of social interactions that you might find in a larger centre like Christchurch. So it's really important that people don't become isolated, that they stay connected, and if people are really struggling, is to to look for help. But again, it's I think it's what's important is it's not all doom and gloom. In areas like Christchurch and Canterbury, there are some people doing absolutely brilliantly. This is the greatest place to to live. And then on the flip side of that, we've also got a part of our community that's really struggling and needing to. Really needing some help, and it's really important we don't demonise or over-accentuate either or.
Yeah, you're right. It's always that fine balancing act, particularly in the job that I have, is trying to present positive news without being too much of a platform for moaners, but also trying to get the realistic approach as to what's happening in our community. It's a fine balancing act, isn't it?
Oh, it is a fine balancing act, because what we don't want to do is become mired in misery.
Yes.
But we also need to be mindful that actually we do have parts of our community that are struggling, and if we don't take those those groups of our community on a journey and support them, then it's another generation of issues that we're going to be creating for our collective selves.
We've got so much to discuss with you, and I thank you for your time tonight. We're going to talk about the ED department overflowing and overdrive, as it always probably is, Ebola, Build Hospital, and of course the parking issues. There's more to come on Lynched on CDV. Stay with us. Welcome back to Lynched on CDV. My guest tonight is the head of the Canterbury District Health Board, David Mates, and it's great to have you on the program, David, I must say. Let's just briefly touch on the staff wellbeing survey. That was a voluntary survey that several thousand staff members participated in. I was surprised to hear, and perhaps this is being ramped up by the media here, that there was poor emotional wellbeing and potential for mental health risk. But I've got to say, that would be across the board in many sectors, wouldn't it? I don't think we can probably say that doctors and nurses are going to run out saying they can't cope.
No, we're an unusual organisation. After the earthquakes, we've done 2 wellness surveys. Part of that is we knew we were going to be in the long haul, and often health professionals are a group that spend all their time caring for others, and at times not very good at looking after themselves. So we've had a lot of different support and programs in place to really enable and encourage staff to be looking after themselves. And so the second wellness survey has really again highlighted that things haven't got any worse, but we've still got some kind of real concerns that we're needing to stay very, very focused on making sure that that people that work in health are looking after themselves. So they're worrying things like people not doing enough exercise, for instance, because we do know that if you're under a bit of pressure, under a bit of stress, it's good to get out and do something. But we have got some really abnormal environments that people are working within. Every hospital and health facility has got major repairs and work underway, And I'm not sure whether you've ever had a concrete drill going in the, kind of in your ear at any time. And about 2 minutes of that really does your head in. But we've had that going on for months and months and months. And in some places, every 15 minutes, every hour, the drilling stops just to enable conversations to happen or a stethoscope to come out and to take the heartbeat.
I have been in the position of actually a family friend being in hospital at the time that there was drilling going on, and it's quite odd to see that the patients, in a way, I've got to say, I'm sure there are awful cases, but they use humour to get over it. They're in a hospital, which is supposed to be this quiet, tranquil place, and you've got drilling, but it's a necessity. In some awful places, it just has to happen. But
and it's been one of the wonderful features over the past few years. The community have been so understanding, and that's been really important for staff, because it is really, really hard to work in those sort of environments.
I bet.
Yeah.
I want to come back later on and talk to you about the brilliant staff, and I say that sincerely. I've got some good stories I want to share with you that we were discussing earlier. I want to share with the viewers as well. But some other good news that we don't often hear about, and I think it's important to say this, and I think even your communications advisor was saying, "Oh, don't worry about that, that's boring," but we can be too into the bad news stories when it comes to hospitals. You know, we can, but I think this is good news. The CDHB's first quarter results for 2014 and 15 national health targets show you're on track. Things like the quit smoking incentives, they're working well. And I know it's only a very small part of what you guys do, but I think it's important sometimes to shout the positive things happening, even if it is small things like your quit health smoking incentives have reached national targets. So you can pat yourself on the back for that.
Yeah, look, it's a pretty amazing health system in Canterbury. The way that both our primary and community sector work, the way the hospitals work, it takes really remarkable people to be achieving those health targets, but also at a time when we probably had all the excuses in the world not to be doing, and yet people have got on and just said that this is really important for our community to make happen. So it's it has been really great. It's been really neat to kind of see that we've continued to provide and deliver the services we needed to.
Another campaign the CDHB has been involved in, and I think this is brilliant. At first I was a bit sceptical, and if they present another wellbeing survey, I'm going to go insane, but I'll let them off this time, is the All Right campaign. And I'll tell you what stuck out for me for this campaign is I was visiting a friend of mine staying at Burwood Hospital, and I know that's in development at the moment, I was having to walk down the containers, where the reception area is. And on each side of the wall of the containers, there were some lovely funny quotes, or just, actually not funny, just genuine quotes. You okay? How's it okay? It's okay to feel sad. Your house is stuffed, it's okay to feel angry. Such simple blimmer messages, but so effective. And you feel normal with those messages. The All Right campaign is bloody good. It really is. It
is a fantastic program, and it has actually impacted on so many different people. But we often forget, like in trying to...
Because it's real. Yeah, it's not sort of saying, oh, I hope you're okay. It's not pandering. It's not playing the victim card. It's saying, if you're feeling like you're in a shitty mood, hey, that's okay. Yeah. And it's...
And in trying circumstances, we forget we're humans. We have normal human reactions. So it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to cry. Actually, it's okay to celebrate that you've got your house fixed. It's okay to, it's all right to be doing and feeling a number of things. And it's all right, when was your last moment of wonder?
I can tell you now, but I can't.
But those bits there in terms of just lifting people's heads, in terms of saying, actually, it's all right.
Talk to me about the team. I think we need to ask sometimes if they're okay, is those working in ED. Now, some of the anecdotal evidence and media reports have suggested, and I suppose this is always the case, ED is always working in overdrive, but you are getting more and more cases of people presenting themselves that aren't necessarily urgent cases. They could go to their GP, they could go elsewhere. How do we deal with those, David, who are taking advantage of the situation, taking advantage of a department that's there to help emergency cases, not if you've got a common cold or you've got a sore leg, the cases where they should be going down to Beeley?
Yeah, I think we're seeing part of the rebuild population, and our population in Canterbury has increased and is growing pretty quickly. So under the 24-hour surgery at Beeley Ave, they're seeing exactly the same increases as what's happening in the emergency department. And a lot of it is people that are from from out of region that have shifted into Canterbury for the rebuild. So again, we're needing to be really consistent with messages in terms of, you know, if you're feeling unwell, phone your GP anytime, or general practice any time of the day or night, because your phone will be answered. And if you've got a minor injury, to go to the 24-hour surgery and or Morehouse or Riccarton clinics that have got extended, kind of extended hours 7 days a week.
Because at the end of the day, if you go to ED with something quite minor, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yep.
You're going to become frustrated, you're going to get angry, and that's the last thing anybody needs when you're working in ED.
And the thing is that most of the individuals we deal through the emergency department are really complex cases, and that's always going to take precedence.
Well, one case I hope you don't get, and I'm sure you probably won't, is Ebola. How prepared are we in Canterbury for that? What has happened to Ebola? It doesn't seem to make the news headlines as much anymore. Hopefully that's a good thing. We'll also discuss Burwood Hospital and the parking issues. Still to come on Lynched. Welcome back to CDV. My guest tonight is the head of the Canterbury District Health Board, David Mates. David, Ebola, it seems to have gone off the face of the planet in terms of its news value. It's still happening though, isn't it? It's still spreading across some African countries, isn't it?
It's still a really important disease, but I think, you know, one of the challenges and I guess benefits of being in New Zealand is the likelihood of an Ebola case getting to New Zealand is relatively small. And again, like lots of different infectious diseases, health facilities and hospitals like Christchurch and a number of other places throughout New Zealand, this is what we do on a pretty regular basis. And so in terms of the processes and the isolation and the mechanisms in place, we do this on a pretty regular basis.
And the good thing too is our geographical isolation helps, doesn't it really?
Yes, it does. And it generally means that someone coming from West Africa is normally or probably stopped somewhere else along the way. One of the challenges is 21 days incubation period where you don't show any symptoms, and so what is really important is that if people do become unwell, is actually again phoning the general practice and again indicating if they've been to West Africa, that is that's highlighted when they call.
I was coming through customs only a couple of weeks ago, and the Border Protection Patrol there is pretty good. I mean, you have to tell your entire life history before they let you back into New Zealand, so I think we're pretty safe, aren't we?
Well, it's another precaution that's in place, and what it does do is, no system's fail-safe, but what it does do is limit the opportunity for someone with potentially with Ebola to come into the country. But we do need to be prepared that if someone does manage to get through, that in fact we've got the systems and processes in place, and we're really comfortable we have.
Let's briefly touch on some of the new buildings that are happening at the moment. You've got Burwood Hospital. As I say, I was out there the other day looking great. I love seeing progress. I get so excited about seeing a blooming old building going up. Who would have thought after earthquakes? When will that be finished?
So Burwood Hospital will be fully in there by March 2016. So that's not that far away. We've got new facilities being built at Kaikoura, which will be completed sometime in 2015. Some new health facilities happening in Ashburton and also in Rangiora. And then the main Christchurch Hospital site, the big
acute services building. Don't call ASB, they'll think the bank's sponsoring it.
It's not ASB, but we're happy for ASB to sponsor it if they wanted to. But that there will be fully commissioned by March 2018. And again, with the size and the complexity of the building, that's not that far away.
Yes, I read in the press though, you've still yet to find what the main construction company. Get a wriggle on, David. So
what we've got is the site preparation and the clearing and the foundations that work's been let and underway, and we're going through the process now in terms of main contractor selection, and that will be a process that will take us through until probably May next year. And there's not a lot of point having on, appointing too much earlier than that, because that's the point when the main construction will start. So we're pretty comfortable with where that process is at the moment.
It's a great looking design too.
It is. It's going to be a really, really fantastic hospital, and it's been built around patient flow, and a lot of the thinking has actually come out of the design lab, big warehouse that we've got in Addington, where we've had literally thousands of patients and clinical staff that have been really important in terms of the shaping and design of the hospital.
pretty exciting, actually.
It is really exciting, and it's going to be a very, very different health facility.
Something you're hoping to oversee the entire project?
Oh, one never knows, but it'll be great to see that come to life.
That was my way of seeing if you're enjoying your job, you're going to go to stay on for a few more years. Did you like that?
Oh, I'm stubborn and thick-skinned enough, probably too.
Good. Well, there were a lot of concerns regarding Christchurch Hospital and the lack of access to get to it now because of the parking. There were, messages on Facebook you guys got. There was almost hate campaign at one stage. But I'm getting the sense things are working now with the park and ride facilities. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback, David. Are you?
Yeah, we are. And look, we've got about 4,000 people that access Christchurch Hospital on any given day. It's a lot of people, and when you remove all the parking off-site, it is disruptive. But the arrangements that have gone in place, while there were a lot of fears and concerns to start off with, have gone really, really well. And we'll continue to fine-tune and improve that, but it's the park and ride system that we've got in place now is going to be with us for the next probably 4 or 5 years as we build new parking buildings and other bits that come on stream.
But what is going to happen though with the Metro Sports Facility and the Cricket World Cup? Is that going to cause a headache, or you think you can sort that out?
The Metro Sports Centre, we're working very closely with all those parties, and as the Metro Sports start developing, we'll shift the parking kind of down a wee bit further, and we're working with a range of other options, and that's why the park and ride has been so important to get into place now. In terms of the World Cup cricket, at the end of the day, it's going to have very little disruption. It's an event for a day, and then over a number of different days, and what a great thing to be coming to Christchurch, and for a few hours we're working with them in terms of appropriate access and parking plans, and that's going to be great. I
was saying to you off here before that the CDHB in recent years seems to have escaped the awful media headlines. It's now at the council's job. You're very lucky in a way, but I also put that down to leadership and the fact that I've got friends and family that work there, and the culture has changed. There's a good culture. There's a CEO newsletter that I know people appreciate, where you can be recommended or your work is appreciated. That's a culture thing that I think people appreciate. So I want to say congratulations to you. But I also want to say too that, and we talked off air in the green room, didn't we, about the amazing staff you have there. And I was saying to you, and I think you agree, but maybe you don't want to say it now, is that if I'm ever sick, I want to be sick at Christchurch Public Hospital. No one can in Auckland. This show is not broadcast in Auckland, so we can go mental about Auckland. I'd rather get sick here than sick in one of those awful Auckland hospitals, because the staff here are fabulous, right down to the cleaner. In fact, the caterer I had on Newstalk ZB, who was a lovely woman at Ward 28, I think it was. But what a lovely culture. There is a good culture at Christchurch Hospital.
Yeah, look, we've got a great culture.
I hope I can say that and they're not saying, oh no, it's not, Chris, it's terrible.
Yeah. No, we've got a great culture across all of the health facilities in Canterbury, and we employ about 9,500 staff directly, and then there's about another 9,000 working at general practice, community pharmacies, the aged care sector, and so there's about 18,000 people in total work in the Canterbury health system, and it's an amazing mix of people, and and again, as a region, if I was to get sick, I wouldn't want to be any other way. The
staff, everybody is fabulous.
Yeah,
they really are.
And it's a whole group of people. It doesn't matter whether it's general practice, pharmacies, or in the hospitals or wherever. People are genuinely out to make sure that this is the best experience you will have at a time when you're a bit vulnerable.
You're right, let's hope I never need the services though. David, mate, it's really nice to have you in the programme. Okay. Thanks for your time. I really enjoyed that. And thank you for joining me on CTV's Lynched programme tonight. Don't forget to join me on Newstalk ZB tomorrow. Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell will front up on that $900 million shortfall. But from me and all the CTV team, good night. Lynched on CTV was proudly brought to you by Christchurch's #1 dining offer, Sequoia 88, at the Redwood Hotel, a food concept unequalled.